You're welcome to another beautiful Easy Maths. And today we're going to study finding the subject of formula. So you may be asking, why subject of the formula? Applications of subject of formula in everyday life. Okay, so first of all, an equation, like say a function made up of different terms and different variables. So equations can be used in everyday life because you can pair up two variables and create them into an equation. For instance, a distance problem, a speed problem, and okay, maybe you want to find out how much time it takes Peter to get to a certain distance. I have two functions there, which is distance and time. So our equations help us solve problems with different variables and different terms. So today specifically, I'm going to teach you the basics of subject of a formula. So stay tuned to the end and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like, comment, and share with your friends so that they will be part of what you are enjoying. Stay tuned. So we're coming straight to where we are solving our problem. So today's topic is subject of the formula. Subject of the formula. So first of all, what's a formula? Is a combination of two or more variables. For instance, maybe we have a formula like this: V equal to U plus A T. Now this is a formula of motion where V represents the velocity of the moving body, the final velocity. U represents the initial velocity. A represents the acceleration, while T represents the time. Okay? So if you have a formula like this, which is the equation of motion with these different variables and terms, we might want to find a different subject. Now, the subject of this particular formula is the final velocity. So how about if in our question we want to find the time? How do we find that? Maybe we have the velocity, we have the initial velocity, we have the acceleration, but we do not have the time. And we want to find the time. We have to find the subject. We have to make T the subject. The subject of this equation. Okay? We have to make T the subject of this equation. So today's topic is making a variable the subject of any formula. Okay? So let's work with our first example. We say make T subject of the equation of motion V equal to U plus A T. So in working subject of formula, we have to face some operations, some mathematical operations, okay? Now we know the four major mathematical operations are times, multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, okay? Then we also have an equal sign. We also have an equal sign. So if you have an equation, you have two sides of the equation. This is known as the left hand side, while this is known as the right hand side. So in manipulating mathematical operations in an equation that has a left hand side and a right hand side, if you have multiplication, if the term is the multiplication, when it jumps over the equality sign, it becomes what? A divide. if you have a positive or a plus sign, when it jumps over the equation, it becomes a negative. When you have a negative sign, if it jumps over the equation, it becomes a positive. When you have a divide sign, when it jumps over the equality sign, it becomes a multiplication. So we're going to see other examples of how this works. We know this will work vice versa, okay? If it's from the right hand side to the left hand side, we'll have the same thing. If it's from the left hand side to the right hand side, we'll also have the same thing. Now let's look at a typical example of the multiplication operation. Let's assume we have let's assume we have AT equal to V. This is the equation of acceleration and velocity. Okay, now we know AT is the same thing as A times T equal to V. So if I want to make A the subject of the formula, means that I'm going to move times T to the other side of the equation, to the right hand side of the equation. And remember, when you move a multiplication sign over to the other side, maybe the left to the right hand side, it becomes a division. So I'm making A the subject of the formula, remember? So if I move times T to the other side, I will have V divided by T, or V all over T. So if A is the subject of this function, AT equal to V, then this is how it will look like. Now we've solved the problem of the multiplication and division operations. So now for the second operation, how do we apply it to subject of the formula? Remember, this operation is if we have a plus on the left hand side and it jumps over to the right hand side, it becomes a minus. Okay? Or if we have a minus on the left hand side and it jumps over to the right hand side, it becomes a plus. So let's use this equation as an example. V equal to U plus AT. So let's not overflog this equation. Let's try some other equation. So we can say A plus B equal to C. Given A plus B equal to C, make B subject of this expression. Okay, so let's remember our operation. That's our operation. Positive on the left hand side flips over to the right hand side and becomes negative. Okay, so now what do we do to make B subject of the formula? Meaning, what do we do to isolate B? Only B should be on one side of the equation. Right now, this equation has C as a subject because C is isolated on the right hand side. So how do we make B isolated on one side of this function? Okay, first of all, that means we have to remove A, okay, and leave only B. We're okay with plus B. Plus B is also B. Remember, every term and the sign in front of that term or the operation in front of that term belongs to the term. Okay, this plus sign does not belong to A, it belongs to B. So how do we make A leave here and go to this other side, leaving only B? We subtract A from both sides. Subtract A from both sides. So we say A minus A plus B equal to C minus A. A minus A will give us 0, leaving us with B equal to C minus A. So the subject of this formula, B, when B is subject of this formula, this is the expression. Our second example is we're given a function C equal to 2 pi r. Now let make arrow the subject of the formula. Okay, so now remember this is a multiplication operation. That is, if we write it to have 2 times pi times arrow. Okay, so how do we make arrow to be isolated on one side? Means this multiplication will divide. Okay, so we say divide both sides by 2 pi. Divide both sides by 2 pi. Divide both sides by 2 pi. So we have C over 2 pi is equal to 2 pi r over 2 pi. So we cancel out the common terms. So we have r isolated on one side of the equation. Okay, so what do we have? Let's rewrite it. R is equal to C all over 2 pi. So this is a new function in terms of C and pi. Okay, when r is the subject of the formula. So if we have this function k is equal to b rt all over v minus b, make b the subject of the formula. So we're going to cross multiply. Okay, we'll cross multiply. Now we assume this is what? K over 1. So what do we have? We have k v minus b equal to 1 b r t. Okay, so now we want to isolate b. So we'll expand the left hand side. So we'll have kv minus kb equal to brt. Okay, so we're going to move b, anything that has b on it, any term that has b on it, we'll move it to one side. Okay, so we can say this term and this term will be isolated to one side. So what do we have? It will become kv equal to brt plus kb. Remember, minus kb jumps to the other side, becomes plus kb. So what do we do next? We have b common in both terms. So we're going to factorize, okay? We'll factorize the right hand side. So kv is equal to b, is common, right? So b divided by brt divided by t will give us rt. Kb divided by b will give us what? K. So we have b into bracket rt plus k and equal to kv. So we need to isolate b. B needs to be alone on one side. So what do? We will divide both sides, or we'll move this over and it becomes divide. Okay, so we'll say kv all over rt plus k equal to b rt plus k all over rt plus k. Right? This whole term will cancel out this whole term, leaving us with our function b equal to kv all over RT plus k. So this is our final function. This is our final function. So if we're given this function, a all over p minus b over q equal to c, make q the subject of the formula. Make q the subject of the formula. So how do we go about this? How do we go about this? First of all, I always like to isolate Q, make anything attached to the subject to be on one side, okay? So I will move this whole function to the right hand side. And because it's minus, remember, it will become plus when it gets to this side. And I'll also move this function, which is C or plus C, move it over to this side. Okay, so we will have a minus p, a over p minus c equal to b all over q. Minus turns to plus, plus turns to minus. So how will I make q the subject of the formula? That means q has to go here, right? Q has to go there. So if I flip this whole equation over, what would I have? I will have the inverse, okay? I'm taking the inverse of the whole equation. So I have a all over p minus c equal to q all over b. So I still need b, only b to be on one side. So what will I do? I will cross b to the other side. Remember, this divide. So when it goes to the other side, it becomes above the numerator. So that will be b all over bracket a all over p minus c equal to q. But I'm not comfortable leaving this in this form. So what will I do? I will simplify this before I will get a final answer. So can we move over to the side? We'll say q. We'll say, okay, b all over. We're going to simplify this bracket. So we'll have the LCM of this will be P. So P divided by P1 times A, giving us A. Divided by 1 gives us P times C minus CP. Okay? So minus CP equal to Q. So what happens? This P will jump up, okay? Giving us BP all over A minus CP equal to Q. So our function subject of the formula is BP all over A minus C equal to Q. And so simply finding subject of the formula, it's very, very straightforward. It's not difficult. If you follow all the operations, mathematical operations properly, it will be very easy for you to find the subject of formula. So we're going to do more problems on finding subjects of the formula. So I want you to stay tuned and watch out for our videos. There will be more problems solved on subjects of the formula. And then, well, if you have any question, you can type it in the comment section or send an email to easymathsonline@gmail.com, and we're going to solve that problem for you very fast. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Mwah. Have a lovely day.